Hello, everybody. We're going to get our next panel started right now. We are waiting for one more person to join us, so hopefully they are able to before we get too deep into this topic. This is our player discussion panel, and the topic I wanted to tackle this time was how to build characters geared towards better role-playing. So this is not necessarily, we're not talking about min-maxing or anything like that. We're not talking numbers at all. It's strictly, how do I make a character that I'm going to have fun role-playing and that I have incentive to role-play? And joining me for this panel, I have the illustrious Pip Ponderowski from the Iron Hearts, Weston Lee Ball. You want to say hi, Weston?
Don't forget to unmute yourself, Weston.
Oh yeah, definitely do that.
Yeah, I'm Weston Lee Ball, actor, artist, musician, creator here at Nerdcrafty. I play Pip in Iron Hearts and a number of other characters that I'm sure you will be seeing soon. I'm excited to talk about role-playing because it's a big part of what I do, what I like doing in these games.
We also have joining us Captain Zach, who is, of course, the Dungeon Master for the Iron Hearts, and also you saw them earlier as Nirvana in drag.
Yeah, probably one of my favorite characters was Nirvana. Excited to talk about characters. I enjoy all aspects of Dungeons & Dragons, but the older I get, the less I enjoy the optimization. So I'm stoked to be talking about the role-playing.
And my name is Sam. I am the creative director for Nerdcrafty. I also, I'm not running any games that you can see right now, but I am currently in filming for one that is going to be coming out hopefully by the end of the summer, but at least by fall. So I'm very excited to be able to share a little bit of insight on how we put together characters. So we have one more person joining us, as I've said. It is Matt Dungeon Glitch, and they have a charity stream that they are wrapping up, so hopefully they will be able to join us very shortly, and then we'll get everything fully set up till then. But why don't we just go ahead and start in on the topic? So when I start building a character, honestly, the numbers are the last thing I'm thinking about. I try and come from a point of, like, there's really three sections. What did they do, which is kind of what are the things in their past that helped them form the personality that they have? What do they want, which is what drives them? And then what are their dreams? What are the things that either haunt or loom over them? So I kind of try and come at it from that really cerebral kind of standpoint of like, okay, well, maybe this character doesn't have a tragic backstory. This character is like super happy-go-lucky, and I really want them to be like the bubbly person in the group. Okay, so what do they want? Maybe they are looking for admiration from others, and that's going to be the thing that drives them. And then what are their dreams? Their dreams might be either, if it's something good, it's going to be like dreams of actually like having that giant community that really supports them. Or if it's like more nightmarish and things haunting them there, then it might be sort of the nobody really likes you, everyone's kind of using you, and you don't have any real friends, that kind of a feel. And what I like to do is I try and think about it as like past, present, future. So past is what you did before, present is what you want in that moment, and then future is kind of what we allude to with the dreams, the subconscious. And that might just be me, but that's kind of where I like to start. How about you, Weston? Where do you start when you start building a character?
Honestly, it kind of depends. I mean, for the game we just played, for Shane's Dungeon Crawl, I knew immediately, like, the thing I wanted to do, because we were building these in the last few days leading up to this. You know how scheduling can be. So trying to figure out something like that was a complicated build was not something I wanted to do. What I wanted to do was have something that was just going to be fun to be in a dungeon. I wasn't going to worry too much about getting one-shotted by, a manticore or something like that. I wanted something that would be sturdy and be able to be a little bit fighty, but, that little touch of intrigue by adding the satyr race into it and taking the path of the beast was kind of just this I guess, story I wanted to tell for this session. Something that was a character that was kind of chaotic, obviously courageous, but not your, I guess, more of a typical anti-hero than your antagonist. Yeah, definitely a character build I want to come back to. That was a really fun character, but like for a lot of Zach's games, I know how complicated some of these stories can be, and especially when I first joined the Iron Hearts, they were just wrapped up a big adventure. This is long before we started streaming and everything, so they just wrapped a big adventure, and I was joining the game, and it was during what was basically an in-world mini series where we went and fought this Ice King. And so I knew that Zach's game had like this established world that I wanted to make sure that I built for. I wanted to know more details about the world, and I usually do want to know as much as the DM will let me know about the world we're entering and inhabiting, so that I can start kind of establishing this character within that world. How does it make sense? How does it interact with all of the characters, or all of the peoples that inhabit the world? You know, do they have like aversions to undead, or is there something in their backstory where they suffered some kind of loss, or are they like the typical happy-go-lucky, like Pip is I mean, he has his tragic backstory, but I don't play him that way. Pip represses a lot of things, and they surface occasionally. But Pip's got this. Pip's more interested in being a lever. He's ready to go kind of like back into the background or all the way into the foreground at any given chance. He's kind of like this, like the comedic archetypes I grew up with, like a little bit chaotic, like Jim Carrey's Mask, or a lot of characters like this where they have this element of you don't really know what they're going to do next. They don't really tell you exactly who they are, but that might be partly because they're stupid. But are they stupid? Is it just like a part of their front, this performance they're constantly giving? But yeah, I mean, and then I guess for any game, it kind of it always depends on. I mean, a lot of the time, the world I'm going to start playing in. That's a big one for me.
Oh, we have just been joined by Matt, aka Dungeon Glitch. Thank you. I know you just came from his charity stream, so thank you so much for hustling your way over here.
Yeah, sorry, that took a minute.
That's okay.
Yeah, I just DM'd a quick 3-hour one.
Oh, wow.
Sweating it out.
So we were all just kind of talking about how we approach building a new character when we know that we're building that character towards role-playing.
Oh, cool. Yes. I love it.
So, Matt, no, I'll let you catch your breath because I was about to answer that question, and we are focusing on the role play instead of the numbers. Obviously, there's no one way. There's no one way to the top of the mountain, and there's no one mountain that is everyone's mountain, and what some people consider the top isn't necessarily the top to everyone else. So I always just try to let inspiration hit me a lot of times, and because I've been playing for so long, that'll just be me having not seen something before that I want to do. Like in Shane's game, people are always giving, or there's this stigma around the Beast Master Ranger, so I wanted to play that because it was absolutely fun. And there's a lot of plagiarism. The older I get, the harder it is to come up with new ideas. So I had seen a stream where someone had a ranger that their dog was the beast companion, and whenever that dog died, they just had another dog ready to go. It was this kind of, a whole family of dogs that they had back at their home. And if the beast companion died, the dog died, they had another one ready to go. So the older I get, the less I think about it. But I know a lot of times, especially if I'm under the gun or having to create an NPC, You think of something that's a detail, maybe it's material like a scar, but most of the time it's not. It's something that makes them different. And what Sam was talking about, she thinks about the character having a want. I always try to think of, and then she had mentioned having a dream. I always try to think of having a want and having a need. And I look at Zuko from the Last Airbender as the prime example of a character who has a want. He wants respect from his father. He wants all these things that he thinks he needs to get respect. And throughout the course of the series, his wants and his needs change, and he kind of realizes that he has these needs that he didn't even know about, and he becomes one of the good guys. So I always try to think of a character that has a want. And with Shane's game, it was 2 hours and it was a dungeon crawl. But even for that character, I had a want. She wants to keep people at a distance, and her need was that she needs to connect with other people. So that was in the back of my mind, even in the 2 hours that we were killing death dogs and encountering a gelatinous cube. I think it's the Fate. I'll make one more point. I think it's the Fate game that has you create a character by using a sentence. It has a descriptor or an adjective like burly, rough around the edges, anxious, any descriptor, and it has a noun, rogue, soldier, mother, and then you do a verb, something with action. Shoots guns, casts spells, and those three kind of building blocks are enough to work with. But especially when you're creating anything, just get to that stream of consciousness. Just get to that point where the character is creating themselves, is saying and doing things that you had never thought of, and it's just, you can just let that get in the flow and let that pour out onto the page or onto the role-playing table. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. Especially the figuring out a drive. That's very important because you want to work with your DM with this sort of thing, your game master or whatever, because that is essentially going to be your character arc. And when you give the game masters, at least a minor roadmap or some kind of clue of how to allow you to grow, play something out, or how to properly mess with you, it's an important aspect when making a character for role-playing specific purposes. Myself, what I like to do when I'm starting up, I particularly like to lean into realistic flaws, and I like to, if I'm not running the game, I try to come up with a few, like, either trinkets or unrelated things that the DM can later turn into seeds. So I might be like, oh, well, yeah, my character has this watch. He doesn't really know where he got it. It's important to him, though. With something random like that. As far as staying away from or trying to avoid, like, min-maxing numbers and stuff like that, I actually prefer to play like non-combat weak characters, because then I have to lean into the role play. Like I'll pick a rogue with everything just in skills of talking and spotting things and sneaking around, and he's going to have strength and dex pretty low. But if he needs to run his mouth, he's going to do it. So, and I there's a couple times I've just run characters that were just specifically just talkers, and I don't know, it's a lot of fun. So when you're able to do that, you can work with your DM a little more on maybe giving them authority or random skills. Like if you're playing a rogue, using Thieves' Cant for almost everything becomes essential, and working with your DM to then flesh out their world is an extra bonus and takes a little of the weightlifting off of them. So it's a ton. It's just fun for me.
Yeah, I think getting to talk to the GM about things you want to happen is important. And also, Weston had mentioned in our game that I run the game and he's playing in it and he has even multiple characters. He was really good about asking questions about the setting. And I've got, a setting Bible that I'm like, really? You want to know about this? Info dump, just this is the cosmos. There's these factions at play. You can be attached to this. And it's very much like kind of the old Star Wars films where it's more of a galaxy that anything can happen. There's not necessarily a lot of specifics. There's just room for you to create whatever you want. So I always like to make it setting specific whenever I can. If the campaign's going to be in Atlantis, I don't want a fire elemental character. I want to fit the setting.
But there's something that could be really interesting about playing that fire elemental and being the fish out of water character, too.
That's true.
That's actually one of the things that I really love to do, is I love to play against the world. Right now, I am getting ready to continue with an Icewind Dale campaign that I'm part of, and I have this tiefling monk who is like very much a trickster, but very like happy-go-lucky and bubbly, even though she's got this very tragic backstory. She's always trying to find like the silver lining in things, and although they're going through like this big, awful wasteland of snow looking for the Frost Maiden, she's like, oh, this is gonna be a great vacation, this is really fun.
Yeah, it's always fun to like subvert the expectations of not just like if you're playing to an audience, but sometimes your audience is just like the 5 other people sitting around a table with you, and throwing them off, you don't want to throw them out of the game, but every once in a while giving them a little twist, twist of the knife it's enough to elicit enough laughs. I think it's for that reason okay.
I also really like, Matt, the thing you were talking about leaning into flaws. One of my absolute favorite systems of all time was the original Serenity RPG, which, in order for you to gain more points to build up your character, you could take flaws. And it's actually encouraged that you, take flaws, some of them were okay, you're addicted to some kind of substance, you maybe have lost a limb. One of them is just allergies, just having allergies. But they all add so much color to the character that you're building, and you might end up with a really cool mechanic character who can build explosives and things like that, but maybe they're also deaf because of that. The
3.5 Dungeons and Dragons had the first Unearthed Arcana book, and that introduced flaws, and it was, I think the rule was for every flaw you took, you could take a feat. But these flaws were brutal. It would be something like murky-eyed, and it's like anytime you take a ranged attack, take a -5. Ooh. Or just unlucky and awful things like that.
I like unlucky.
Yeah, and then you would see this also in other systems, like Coyote and Crow has one where you get the I think they're gifts and burdens, where it's essentially based on a point system of different skills that count as points, and you can choose a severity. But for every burden you can take a gift of equal measure. And I was like, oh, word, all right. That's okay. Awful secret, potentially addicted to something, and it's and then I just started taking all these random other benefits. So my character is just this super heavy, awful balance. So it's fun. I also have a character who's blind, just because in D&D 5e for representation purposes. Mm-hmm. So I get to play a character that has the disability. But I try not to look at it as if it's a flaw, so that I can properly represent. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. Playing deaf characters is also fun too, because you get to demonstrate the proper social etiquette. Like if my character is signing, you should be looking at my character, not the interpreter. That kind of thing. You start to sort of pick these things up, and then you're demonstrating them for people who don't know. And that's something I've always kind of taken a little extra pride in, hanging out with all these sensitivity experts that teach me, because so it's fun.
Yeah, we all got to learn, right? And you know,
I like that.
I think being able to spread that message is a super powerful thing that tabletop games allow us all to do. I mean, in that collaborative storytelling, you know, telling our own stories, or you know, the stories of people that we see are, you know, pushed to the margins of society. You know, I think that's a really powerful thing that that we all get to share. You know,
I think it's kind of natural if you've been in the hobby a long time to get bored with the standard tropes, and you know, I know I'm not the only one who likes to learn and be better. So it kind of gives you this opportunity, like, hey, I'm never going to be this person. This is a chance for me to fill those shoes and, in a way, see what it's like. And, you know, not to demean that experience to anyone, but experience it a little bit, at least a small sliver of that iceberg, and know what it's like.
So, Zach, is it more fun for you to play characters that are outside of yourself, or do you find it more fun to play characters that are more like you?
No, so for me, I've been playing so long that I've gotten bored of building my talking rogue over and over again. I'm already the GM. I'm a forever GM, and I get to talk all the time in that game. So whenever I'm a player, I'm trying to shut myself up. I'm trying to build characters that do not talk all the time. In one of Shane's games, I was playing I think she was about 13, a 13-year-old girl of some sort of ambiguous Asian Pacific origin, and she was being possessed by a demon. So that was me trying to stretch my limits. And one of the most fun experiences I've had in any game was playing in Sam's drag game, where I was playing a drag queen. And that was just me trying to really learn and stretch those role-playing stereotypes that you want to stay away from, and making it an authentic experience, authentic performance. And so the longer I play, the more I'm trying to stretch what comes to me naturally, especially like even playing in Shane's game earlier today. I immediately took a leadership role from the beginning and had to take a couple steps back and, you know, role played it as my character, just looking to the other characters like, what are we going to do next?
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just like when you're playing things that are either like a lifestyle or a race or a culture outside of your own thing, as long as you're approaching it with a full open eye sense of respect, and you're learning as you're going, and you're taking the feedback and all this other stuff, you know, I know a lot of people are often afraid of it, and I can't always recommend that people just like, oh, dive in, try it, because some people don't get it right. Mm-hmm. And some people don't always like that it's being played, because you know, it's difficult to do. But again, as long as you're respectful, it's like the number one part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
it's really just approach and like being aware, especially in that kind of a situation, because the last thing you want to do is misrepresent somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. It's okay. Go ahead.
So the opening, I think the first page of Coyote and Crow is like, oh, it's okay if you're not native and you want to play this game. So I recommend everyone read that page. They do a brilliant job with it.
Now, we've talked a lot about playing characters kind of outside of ourselves, but do we think that for people who are new to the games, is it easier for them to kind of make a character that is almost like an avatar of themselves?
Oh, well, I mean, as someone who does that literally every time they put a character down, I have to say, you know, I think for a long time it was actually kind of like when I first started playing, it was more like I wanted to be someone other than me. But even now looking back, most of those characters are just aspects of myself, with me from another universe, or an aspect of myself that I wanted to express, or kind of like feel my way through in a way, and now it kind of has almost become this, in a way, like a way for me to kind of like therapeutically get through some of the stuff that I've been through in my life. For a lot of my characters, it's just trying to connect with the world in a genuine way. Of course, that's like always my priority. But I notice it's kind of just like, once I looked back and realized these similarities between myself and these characters I thought were so different than me, it was just like, okay, well, anything I make basically is just going to have that element to it. Lean into it a little bit. So once the character's kind of like fleshed out and sitting there, I'm trying to think of where to go next with it. I try and figure out, what part of me is this coming from? What aspect of myself? What am I trying to say within this world, within this character? And that's like usually the guiding post that gets the character like in game ready to play. I find the voice after that and all that stuff.
I think for myself, all of my characters do have the same alignment of like a chaotic good, sometimes neutral good. They're always out to take down the tyrant. They're always out to make sure everyone gets treated with respect or with equality. I just can't seem to get away from that. Every character I've made kind of has that same moral compass. But I do like to stretch the body types, and kind of live out this fantasy of being short, of being a lot of my first characters were all halflings, whether they were a barbarian or a rogue or otherwise. It was always someone who's short, because I'm 6'2". I look in the mirror when I'm shaving and I have to crouch down. So for me, there is a certain amount, and I've played with people, I have a friend, her name's Tisha, and the first time she played Dungeons and Dragons, she made a big barbarian guy, and I could see the joy that she had in busting down the doors and, being not the shortest person in the room all the time. So there is certainly an amount of power fantasy that comes from not being the smartest person in the room or being the smartest person in the room. And I think you should lean into that to, what's fun for you to play. But there's some things I just can't get away from, and that helping out the little guy has been in all of my characters.
That's interesting that all of your characters have the same core value.
Yeah, very much so.
And I'm guessing that's probably kind of what you see yourself as in alignment in real life, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole role-playing enjoyment for me, is that you can lean into that heroism that you don't get to in real life. There's so many things that we can't see the change that we make in our small everyday encounters of being kind to others. So it's really nice to take down the bad guy and see the world change from your actions.
Cathartic.
Very much so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I just lost my train of thought. So for me, it's like I try to play characters that are very much different than the last one I played. I will dabble in all of the alignments. Trying to play a chaotic evil character in a heroic party is so fun, because it's like, because you can still set like basic rules for them. Like yeah, I might be a total jerk, but like I'm your jerk. I'm your friend. It's like we're in this. You kind of expect me to do something a little shady, but I know I get away with a lot of it because I have you on my side. So finding all these little different parts. Like a lawful evil character is awesome in the party. And so getting people to try these things, and a lot of people they shy away from playing evil characters, or even neutral characters, because there might be a stigma of some sort. But it's also like some people just go, "Oh, I'm evil. Oh, I get to play a villain." It's like, no, you're just a little selfish. That's really the only difference. You might do some messed up stuff, but you can set a limit on it. Like, you can be chaotic good and not slay every potentially bad guy. You can just do nice things on a small scale. And so testing that is part of it, and adds a lot of depth to potential character chemistry. I like that. So when I make characters, the only thing that I do stick to is sort of two purposes. Lately I play a lot of tanks. And so if I can, my favorite thing to do now is like, I'm just going to be on the front line. You all want to play damage dealers. I'm going to let you do that. I'm just going to run to the front and take defensive action. And that's it. And I'm so happy to do that. But I also like when my tanks are intelligent, so that I can also help the DM out with knowledge rolls. So it's like, you've got a lot of this world you want to talk about. I'm going to be your conduit. So if you need something said or explained, my character is going to know about it, and you can just vomit this content for everybody. So.
It's so good to have those characters in games. That's why I love bards so much.
Yeah.
And for a while,
Yes.
I exclusively played bards because of the ability to have bardic knowledge. Like,
Yep.
oh, you need information? I know everything.
So, yeah, as a forever DM, I always appreciated anytime a player was like, tell me more. Oh, you just wait. It's like
I love that.
So when I start to think of character, I don't like to worry about the physicality or anything yet. It's always about kind of what I want to get out of it. So, for example, I was in the Tomb of Annihilation game that Zach runs before we put it on air, and I had this character named Alondra, and she was a very book-smart, cloistered sort of wizard, went to college, and she was out there looking for her mentor. And I had a real problem with this character because for her to be engaged in this story, she didn't have a strong enough drive to stay in Chult, essentially, to kind of see everything out. Like, the risk was not there for her versus the reward. And it was really one of the first times that I've ever struggled playing a character. So it was interesting to try and kind of dissect what went wrong there. And I think what it came down to was that the character that I built was so antithetical to the world of Chult. Like, they were so fragile, they were so delicate, that it was going to be impossible for this character to go out there and not be fearing for her life all the time. So that just ended up being the character, is this cowardly woman who is upset that her mentor has basically forced her hand to go and help find him. Which, it was fun to play for a while, but you have to make sure that, like, when you come at a character, you're going to enjoy that character for a while, if it's going to be that kind of a campaign. For a one-shot, she would have been great.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, I could see during the last few sessions, Alondra just slowly kind of like losing her grip, and I was like, Alondra, it's gonna be okay. We got your back, but ultimately that was it was not quite enough, and it makes perfect sense because I mean everything about this character, like from my perspective as another player in the game, it was like they need to be somewhere safe. Let's put them in a tower, lock the door. Only we'll have the key. I mean, that's prison. Never mind. Let's do something else, but keep them safe.
But it was still like a really valuable character to have played because I did get to like kind of explore this like innate fear of dying that everyone in the world kind of has. And, we don't examine that a lot in our lives because we're too busy living them. So,
Interesting point.
yeah, I like to use my characters to explore little pieces of myself in that way. Again, going back to my monk character, like, she is my social awkwardness and my bubbliness combined into one thing. So I think it's kind of like I use my own flaws to inform my character's flaws. Do you all feel kind of the same way?
Very much so. I mean, yeah, it's just like I was saying, you know, it's kind of just part of the process for me. It's like for each of them, it's like I'm trying to work through something in a lot of the time. A lot of the characters that I build, I'm trying to work through something. So they all have that aspect of like, yeah, I'm essentially putting one of my own issues, one of my own flaws directly into them and kind of playing that out in this safe place, you know?
Exactly. I definitely cannot escape my flaws. I've found a lot of my characters are always the fool. You know, they kind of bumble into these situations or get impatient. And, you know, that's just me at the table. Like, I want to see what's in the next room. So I can't help but lean into those flaws.
So for me, it's less that it's a flaw, even though it ultimately definitely is. Because the majority of my characters that I've made lately, probably like the last 4 of 5, are all cloistered scholars for their background for D&D, or of some sort, something similar in whatever setting. And that's because in real life, I'm agoraphobic. I don't leave my house. So when I see cloistered scholar, I'm like, oh, I want that so bad. I'm going to play that. So is that a weakness or a flaw? Yeah, but I don't care.
And I think that's an important thing. Like, when you give your character a flaw, you don't think of it as like something that your character is being brought down by. It's something that is unique about your character, and they can use that flaw in different ways. It can be a positive thing sometimes.
Yeah. That's part of just good fiction in general, right? Mm-hmm. Trying to flip your flaw into why your character is the hero of the story. That's what you have to do. You got to find out, well, why can't anyone else be the hero? And it's typically because of the flaw.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's like, I mean, we've all, I'm assuming, have you, because as an actor, it's definitely something that comes up, you know, in the very earliest stages of learning how to get on a stage. It's like trying to find those big choices and lean into them. Yeah, as you get, the more I perform, the more that I act, the more that becomes like one of the absolutes of acting is like make a big choice. And one of my favorite actors of all time is Nicolas Cage. And I mean, there's
yes.
very few films that he doesn't make a big choice. Or several. And you know, I love him for it. It's inspiring. It's I like things that are out of the norm, that aren't what you're expecting, but the way that he's able to deliver some honesty and natural kind of naturalness to those moments is just a really beautiful thing, a gift to the world.
I have a Nicolas Cage throw pillow.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's the one where he's like a Russian general. It's fantastic.
Oh, that's delightful. I live in Las Vegas. I'm still hoping I run into him at some point.
Oh, I hope you do too. I really do.
Right. So I do have a question from the chat. Bio Outbreak would like to know what race do you like the least, or we can also interpret this as there he is. What do you find any races particularly difficult to role play?
Oh, I've got an answer right away for that. In Midgard, in my setting, which I created for the Ironhearts, or at least made customizations to from the Kobold Press setting of Midgard, all the races have the same age. Everyone lives about the same, between 1 and 70. There's no 100-year-old characters. And that's just because, for me, I find it difficult to role play as someone who's been around for hundreds of years. And I've read about characters who talk about their elves who get tired with architecture of the buildings that they see because they've been the same for hundreds of years, so they want to change it. They're bored with chairs. They want a new type of chair. Like, I've seen all these, speculations on how you could role play someone who's been around for hundreds of years, and it just doesn't excite me. So for me, whenever I'm playing in another setting, I tend to lean towards either a human, or if it's a setting where age doesn't come up, then I might try one of the other races. I stay away from the half races, half orc, half elf, because I just don't know what the setting mythos is for how you even got there. Like a half orc is really just a fighting Urukai, but they didn't want to take the there's a rights issue with Lord of the Rings. Halfling is just a hobbit. So for me, there's definitely a strong direction for me to go either human or halfling, someone that has that normal lifespan and more traditional upbringing, just because it's easier for me to role play. I can't even put my imagination in the place of someone who's been around for hundreds of years.
Such a good point. That's surprised. I haven't considered that.
I'm thinking about it now, and I think the only way I would want to play that type of a character that's been around for literally centuries is to play them like they are trying to die.
Right?
Like, I have lived too long, I am bored with everything, something please kill me.
Good for
it's like you play vampire. Everyone's just jaded.
I like it for an NPC or a villain, but for a player character, it just doesn't work for me.
There's potential there. I mean, age is an interesting point of contention. It's like Rip Van Winkle is a human that you could play and is over 100 years old, but he slept through most of his life or whatever. But as far as like D&D races and stuff, it's like, I mean, again, it's just kind of like what fits the mood. I don't necessarily try and think about it like I want to start from that place in building a character. It's like, where am I in this world, and what kind of character sounds like fun, to play in that world. So it's like I've played Variant Human. I've played Water Genasi. I've played what else? I've got the Eladrin Elf. But, I mean, you give me the option to play a goblin or a satyr, and I'm going to take it every time.
Oh, we all have our preferences, right? Like, given the opportunity, I will play a tiefling every time. I try and not to, because it's, you get used to something, and then it's not novel anymore.
Right.
Yeah. I just don't get that opportunity very often, so it hasn't worn off yet.
I'm drawn to playing humans because I consider them super boring, and then I can lean into the role play of the character, or like subvert as much as possible. So if like a human is like the flavor of vanilla, like vanilla is awesome with whatever else you stack on top of it. Mm-hmm. So it's like I'm just gonna make the most ridiculous human I can. But lately, especially in one shots, I'm starting to branch into like the monstrous races, because to Weston's point exactly, the novelty is there, but it also gives me the opportunity to start subverting those. So if I can come up with my own way of doing what you might expect monstrous traditions or cultures and stuff to be like, I don't want anything to do with that. Here's what my Minotaur is like if he was raised like a samurai. This is just what it is. And the DM's like, oh, cool, we'll do that. I'm like, great. So, but
absolutely.
Yeah. So like, Zach also mentioned playing the half races and stuff. And that one's important to me because I'm half race in real life. So like whenever I deal with it, it's also like, and I got to make sure that the DM and the players are all cool with it. It's like, if we are going to explore racism, because some people will be like, absolutely not. I don't want anything to do with that. But it's also like, it's I don't mind talking about it,
Mhm.
and it does come up as a somewhat interesting point in conflict. So when I play like a half elf or a half orc more often, it's exploring the conflict with the cultures, but finding yourself. And when you're able to do that, you can blossom character arcs and really come away with great memories from these characters.
Oh
So
man,
I recommend that. If you can
that's
do
just my real life.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. And it's an interesting point to bring up when, people are uncomfortable, like having, you have to go with what you're comfortable with, really. I don't
Yes.
want to make anyone uncomfortable or anything like that during a game. But when you think about it, if there is like explicit violence within your campaign and you're fine with that, but you're not okay with confronting the reality of racism as well, you have to wonder, maybe check in with yourself at that point.
Yep. Yeah, that's very true. I know even for Shane's little 2-hour dungeon crawl, he had in part of our session 0 stuff that in his world, all the elves are female and all of the dwarves are male. And so I made sure my character had an elven male father. That was one of her adoptive fathers. So that there's a story there. We're not going to get to it in the game. It was just a 2-hour dungeon crawl. But in my head canon, there's a whole real good story there that, we don't have to get to during the game, but in my head canon for my character, that is part of Rose's identity. She has 2 fathers, and one of them wasn't even born a man. So it's something that you have to talk to your GM about, and whether it surfaces during the game like it did not is entirely up to your GM. But for me, for my headcanon, that was a big part of Rose's identity. She's a human who was raised by an elf and a dwarf, and everything I just mentioned before.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that it's really cool. Like, even if you don't get into your character's backstory, everything that you write into it really does flavor the way that you play that character. And the more you can get into it, the more you're going to know about this person that you've created.
Yeah. Even if it doesn't come up, it's a good idea to even write down your vices. It's like, yeah, your character has a day off. What does he do for fun? It's like, oh, I gamble.
Ooh, I like that.
Or I just something goofy. So, yeah.
A lot of time when you build your character, you're building someone that's after gold. That's the mission. You just want the gold. But the question you have to ask yourself is, what are you going to spend that gold on? What are you going to do with that free time?
Exactly.
Yeah, not everyone can be a dragon and just collect shiny things.
Some of us got bills to pay.
Yeah. Fiefdoms to pay for.
Right.
All right, I've got one last question from the chat, and then we're going to have to wrap things up because it is getting awfully close to Iron Carts time. But we have...
That flew.
The question is, how do you get around the feeling of class restrictions, for example, being a barbarian class, meaning that you are barbaric in nature?
You got to reimagine it, and you have to be bold enough to do it, and it also helps to have the logic and the trust of your DM or GM to do so. So, one of my best friends plays a paladin that is only an archer, and he's been doing it since 3rd edition, where it was unheard of. And I play a champion fighter, and he's only an archer. And it's sometimes you can, if you're good with mechanics, being able to twist things also helps, so that you can play a barbarian who might be intelligent and rages because they understand emotions. So they just I know the power of this. This is what I'm going to do. If I freak out, I get a little tougher. So just come at me and just know that it's coming. So you can just flip things. It's fun.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And when I've played rogues that are Goliaths, and yeah, they steal your stuff, but sometimes it's just by force. I've played barbarians that are gnomes or halflings, and they're out there, with 2 hand axes. So I love playing against a type like that.
I just picture your Goliath rogue just shaking the coins out of somebody.
Sleight of hand.
Yeah, for a Pathfinder campaign forever ago, I built a goblin artificer that would pick up little scraps off the ground and make these great grenades out of to use in combat. That was trying to make this really almost this character that is so goblin-y, this grating voice, this kind of little malicious, mischievous kind of intent, but really intelligent and very aware of how things worked and very able to communicate his ideas. But this in this tight, ragey little package.
Fantastic.
One of my favorite characters, not my own, was in 3.5, one of my friends built a rogue and then gave them the Vow of Poverty feat. So they would steal and then have to give away everything that they take.
Oh, I love it.
Mm-hmm. So it was very
that.
Robin Hood to the extreme.
Straight poggers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Every time they needed a weapon, they had to borrow one from somebody else because they have literally no possessions.
I love that.
So there's definitely
like
ways you
some
can work your way around and subvert these tropes that are built into D&D and other gaming systems. It's just a matter
ain't that
of
the fun of it?
Yeah, it's just a matter of how you want to do it.
I love that.
So everybody, how about does anyone have closing words on building characters and role playing for maybe some of the new people watching?
I would say don't be afraid to talk to your GM. Don't be afraid to take time out of game to question them about the setting, about what you can get away with, about fudging rules to make a concept work. Don't be afraid to think outside of the backgrounds that are there. If you saw something on TV or a movie or read in a book, the system can be limiting without trying to. So don't be afraid to stretch the limits of what you can do and go with some crazy idea.
If you're new and your DM is a captive audience, literally destroy them with your questions. Get everything you can out of them, and not because you're greedy for information, but because you're trying to have fun. I mean, this is if you're already considering playing, consider that part of the fun of it is having this extension of yourself or outside version completely separate from yourself, and just dive in. Give your DM a big concept. Maybe you just have one lying around. Maybe you like you said, watching a movie and you want to play Mad Mardigan. Tell your DM. I want to play the greatest swordsman that ever lived, Mad Mardigan. And your DM, I'm sure, if they've watched Willow, will be down.
Yeah. By the way, I've got the character sheet for you on nerdcrafty.com. Ignore the bird, follow the river. I did want to add one more thing. If you haven't played before and you have no ideas and you're going in with a blank slate, don't be afraid to go in with nothing on your page. Come up with it as the story goes. Improvise how your character has this knowledge or has this skill. Just go in with a blank page and you will have just as much fun as if you spent a whole month crafting that character.
Yeah. And if you do spend a lot of time creating your character and you know what kind of thing you have in mind, just do your best to get into that character. You want to get the most out of it. The idea is to have fun, but if you really want the long-lasting impression, you want to make memories. So understand what choices the characters might make. If you know what classes or evolution you have in mind, or don't, it's if you know what you want to make, it's fun to have characters train. I know I'm going to multi-class into ranger, so let's see what some skills I'm going to pick up might be. So here's me practicing these as a level 2 sorcerer. I'm awful at it. So and you get to play that. If you don't know what your character could evolve into, look at what you're doing as your character is being played. And if you find yourself doing things that might be beyond your class, if you're a sorcerer and you're talking a lot, maybe you want to go bard, maybe you want to go rogue. You don't have to do any of that. You can lean more into other things. But when you sort of embrace the organic growth of a character and you remember the decisions and stuff that you've made, that's when your character becomes less of a game piece and more of a person that is along with you on this journey through role-playing. So if you can get into any of that, I highly recommend it. And then it also makes a lot of your decisions more true. And when you find yourself challenged, you'll remember the times where you took a stand with a character or did some of the extra things, made heroic sacrifices. So yeah, it's fun.
My last tip is when you're creating your character, find a verb to attach to that character that's going to color the way that they act in the game. Because verbs are action words, right? We can only ever do actionable things with them. I mean, you can sure use adjectives, whatever, but those will just sit there. If you pick a verb, you're actually going to do something with it.
Smelly wizard. Yeah.
Yeah, so...
smelly rogue in the game tonight.
That's true. Unfortunately, we are out of time for our discussion panel. I want to thank everyone for being here and sharing your thoughts and tips and tricks on building characters. And why don't we go around and you guys can say something that you're involved with if you want to give any shout-outs. And we'll start with Matt.
Oh, sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Matt. I'm Dungeon Glitch on the onlines, primarily Twitter, if you need me. Just holler. I talk to pretty much anybody. I'm the owner of Jumped Firefly. We make goofy t-shirts if you're into that sort of thing. I also make music. If you look up Dungeon Glitch on anywhere you find music, you'll find lo-fi and random things that you can play when you're writing or focusing or trying to relax. Yeah, I'm in a ton of stuff, so we'll just say.
Just look him up.
Yeah. I do the Foundation for Inclusivity in Gaming, if you're into that as well, where we try to encourage BIPOC and LGBT creators to publish in the space. And if you're not familiar with that, please check us out. It's a lot of fun.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. We are about that. Weston?
Weston Lee Ball. I'm an actor, musician, creator, artist. I make stuff. You can find a lot of my stuff at nerdcrafty.com. You can find my stuff at Lava Submersible on Instagram and TikTok. And you can find me at right here, in fact, every week on Tuesdays, doing a live stream where I do some art. And yeah, I'm always around. Give me a holler.
And I'm Sam, sometimes known as Semantics. You can catch me sometimes on Wednesdays doing a world building stream where I have built a giant map and we pick just random locations on it and build some kind of interesting thing there, either for writing or for gaming. So hopefully you can join me on that. And if you want to know when those are, you absolutely have to hit that follow button down there, because it's very random on which Wednesdays I'm able to do this, because I am one person running a whole lot of stuff. Like I think most of us probably are.
Yeah, it's a mood.
All right, but again, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you all of our panel guests for being here. I am super excited to take everything that we've worked on tonight and bring it into the next new character that I build, and I hope everyone out there does that as well. All right, so next up we are going to have the Iron Carts game, but first we'll be taking a tiny break for Zach to get set up for that. So please stay tuned and yeah, hang in there. Enjoy Tabletop Day.